Hey there, guys. Welcome to today's live stream, and happy Thursday. So, I don't think there's really anything I have to discuss beforehand. Um, I am going to be doing another live stream tomorrow. After this one, it's going to be more of a. It's not going to be as structured as my recent ones. I'm going to be more discussing a little bit on sort of motivations with exercise, what to use to stay motivated towards your exercises. And I also have a new live stream planned for next week, which I've just posted. I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on sort of adhering to exercises and goal based stuff. I think that's probably the most fundamental thing to keep in mind, especially when you're trying to start a workout routine or exercise regimen for that matter. So I'm going to more than likely be continuing to expand on some of these sort of topics and give you guys some information on these, especially how to integrate these into your day-to-day life with fitness. So today, basically, what I'm going to be talking about is a little into detail about goals and breaking down your goals into easy to achieve goals. This is going to be sort of discussing a little bit on some of the things that I've discussed in the past, but since I have had a lot of new people join the group and, add to my Facebook, I wanted to sort of go back and sort of refocus on this topic because I think it's the most important topic, especially when you're getting started. And I actually will have a newsletter this coming week. If you haven't signed up for my email newsletter or my email list, I have a really good newsletter that's coming out this coming week that sort of talks about it sort of expands on this, where it talks about the stages of change and sort of gauge where you're at and how you're progressing through your fitness goals. It's a really important newsletter, and I'm likely to do a live stream discussing it, sort of one-on-one with you guys, because it's a really important topic. But anyways, I want to go ahead and get into this and discuss how to break down your goals. And this is something I've been looking forward to talk about. I always enjoy talking about goal-based stuff. So understanding SMART goals. SMART goals is the fundamental aspect, especially when it comes to being a part of my training program. It's what everything is backed on, is creating SMART goals. And every time that I do a consultation, I always talk about SMART goals. It's the fundamental process of sticking to a workout regimen. So SMART goals is basically an acronym. So SMART, S-M-A-R-T, is an acronym for each specific sort of way to sort of a process to base your goals on. So what we're going to talk about first is having your goals be specific. So is your goal specific? So when you make a goal, especially starting out, you want your goal to be specific and be targeted to have a completely narrow goal. So, for example, if you have something that's non-specific base goal, you would say that I want to run more, I want to lift more weights. That's too broad to sort of create as a goal. So, when you make a specific goal, you want it to say, or for example, you put it in your own words. So I want to follow a workout program and exercise at least 3 times a week. So basically, you're narrowing it down to the smallest common denominator, I guess you'd say, the smallest portion of a goal instead of making it so broad. So that's basically what specific means. Okay, measurable. This is another thing to keep in mind. So the goal itself should be able to be measured. So to sort of summarize this, and for example, a non-specific measurable goal would be not charting or recording your goals. So you're not keeping track of what you're doing with your fitness goals. You're not keeping track of maybe how many sets you're doing, how many reps you're doing. You're not tracking. So being specific with your goals, you're recording each day or each week, recording your progress. So you're recording your workouts. You're keeping track of how you're progressing. You're, doing progressive overload. You're adding more weights as you go through your workout program and you're challenging yourself. So you're keeping track of this on a daily or weekly basis. And that's basically what it means to be measurable. You're, you know, basically measuring your goals. So your goal needs to be attainable. So what it means when your goal is attainable is it should be achievable, and it should be known that it is possible to achieve. So basically what this means is it should be something that you know for a fact that you could attain or achieve. So it needs to be, this kind of goes into another acronym in the list, or another letter for the acronym in the list, which is realistic, but I'll go further into that. So basically it means you want to have a goal that's somewhat realistic. So it should be possible to accomplish. So for example, a goal that is non-achievable would be wanting to increase your height. That's really not possible. But what you can do is you can start a training program to help improve your standing posture. So yeah, you can't increase your height, but you can do something about it to help improve it. So you're improving your standing posture. That's something that's attainable. All right, relevant. So this kind of goes back into what I just mentioned. So being realistic and relevant. So what it means to be relevant with your goals is just because your goal is technically attainable, it should also be relevant and realistic to your particular desired outcome. So, for example, a non-relevant goal would be to lose 20 pounds of pure fat in a month. That's really a little bit too, that's a pretty big goal in a month. So what you want to do is make it a little bit smaller and make it to be, a little bit more realistic and relevant to what you're trying to achieve. So a relevant goal would be to lose 2 pounds of pure fat in a month. So that is definitely able to be achieved. Making it to where your goals are not so huge is important, because if you know that you can achieve something small, it's going to help you sort of build upon that like a snowball. So you kind of have to think of it in that way. I think too often, a lot of people, especially when it comes to New Year's resolutions or things like that, people make these too broad goals, too huge goals that they know they can achieve immediately. It's a process. You got to treat it like a process. So, making your goal relevant into losing 2 pounds in a month, that is easily able to be attained. And once you achieve that goal, you can add on to it and challenge yourself more. All right, so the last one out of the SMART goals is you want your goal to be timely or time bound. So basically, you want to have a set specific time when to achieve your goal. So your goal should have a set start time and a set end time. With multiple goals, you should have them in unison on a similar time span. So a non-timely goal would be to gain muscle at some point in time. You don't have a specific start time, you don't have a specific end time, so that's not a timely based goal. So a timely goal, and this goes again to the relevancy, you want to gain 2 pounds of muscle in a 3-month period of time. So again, it's a smaller increment of pounds that are gained in a 3-month period of time. So that again goes back to being relevant, but also timely. So again, you're gaining 2 pounds of muscle. That could be relevant. And then you have a 3-month period of time where you want to gain those 2 pounds of muscle. So the 3-month period of time, you have a set start time, which is the beginning of the 3 months, and then you have a set end time, which is the end of that 3 month period. So that is a timely based goal. So when you're putting it on a time, like a start time and an end time, you're making it to be sort of something that not needs to be rushed, but you're creating a sense of urgency with that goal. So that's important. And, having it relevant and timely, this both goes hand in hand. So that's basically sort of what SMART goals are. I hope that you kind of understand what that means and sort of, think about it. You can use SMART goals not only in fitness, but in, your day to day stuff or any day to day tasks that you do that you want to become more organized with. You can definitely use those goals in that way. But it becomes more important in fitness, especially when you're wanting to gain a certain amount of muscle mass, or when you're wanting to lose a certain amount of pounds, or when you're wanting to, be able to lift a certain amount of weight. It's important to integrate those SMART goals, because when you start out from the beginning, you're not going to be able to attain something so huge as to losing like 100 pounds in a month. So, starting out with those small goals are important. And then as you go on, you're building a snowball effect and you're continuing on, and you can add on to those goals and you can challenge yourself with them. So the next part of this presentation is something else that I want to talk about. And this is basically the different types of goals. So there's basically 3 different types of goals that I'm going to basically discuss. This is a little bit separate from SMART goals. SMART goals is more of like basically a blueprint of how to lay out your goals. These types of goals are sort of defining exactly what a specific goal is. So an outcome goal is defined as a target or definitive endpoint. So outcome goals are synonymous with a short-term and a long-term goal. If your goal is to lose 2 pounds by next week, that of course is the outcome goal. So this is basically a way to categorize the goal. So losing 2 pounds by next week, that is the outcome. So, that's basically telling you what the outcome of that goal is. You're losing two pounds in the next week. That's the outcome. So that's basically defining what that is. Process goals. So a process goal is the method or alteration of habit used to achieve a specific goal. So for example, if you're wanting to lose at least 2 pounds by next week, you will need to take into consideration your exercise and nutrition to support that outcome. So the process goal is basically the steps you're needing to take to get to that outcome goal, if that makes sense. So the process goal is what you're doing now, day by day, to reach that outcome goal. That's basically what a process goal is the beginning, the process, the beginning stages, and then the outcome is the end stage of that goal. Okay, and performance goal. This is a little bit separate. So basically, what performance goal is defined by setting new achievements. Defined by setting new achievements within the performance being measured. So, for example, if the process goal is to do 3 sets of barbell squats, the performance goal would be to track the weight when doing those squats. So, this is more a little bit in detail of, what your outcome and your process is. This is going into detail. So you're tracking exactly what the weight is that you're doing during that squat. That's basically what a performance goal is. So I hope that you guys can kind of understand this. I'm trying to make it easy to understand. And this stuff is really important. I mean, it's the basis of everything that you do when it comes to fitness. When it comes to health, I mean, anything. It could be used for almost anything. But you want to keep this stuff in mind. So that's basically all the presentation I have for you guys today. Again, I hope you guys found value in this. I hope that you understood sort of the basis of what goals are. And definitely go back through this presentation when this live stream ends. I'm going to upload it to YouTube too. Go back through those SMART goals and, sort of challenge yourself and use those goals, sort of that blueprint in the SMART, to create a goal based on that acronym and those letters. It will help you definitely to sort of gauge how you can achieve what you want. How you can start with that process goal and then reach that outcome goal. So I hope you guys really found this interesting, and I hope it helps you really break down goals. I have definitely used this. It's it took me a long time. Like when I started working out, I had to really sort of figure out how to gauge my goals and how I should be self-aware of them, because sometimes in your day-to-day life you're kind of on autopilot and you don't think so heavily on it. But now that I focus on this, I always am aware, okay, this is, I start small and then I gradually work my way up. And that's really, really the basis of it, is you got to start small. Don't get an ego. Don't try to, lift the heaviest weight. You got to start small. You've got to start at something that is easily attainable to get to, what you want to be at, to be able to lift that certain weight. And it's a process. You've got to, it's like a muscle. You've got to constantly work it, especially with your goals. You've got to constantly work it. And that's how it was with me. Like, I remember when I first started to do my, started to get really serious with weightlifting. I was like, I had to sit down and I had to write down, okay, what do I want? What is it that I want? And when I started out, I said, okay, I'm going to try to stick with this for a couple months, and see how it goes. If I can go through a couple months, and then I'm going to see if I can go through a year. I can go through a year, see where I can go from there. And that's sort of how I sort of stayed on track, and I've been on track for a while now, because I laid it out and I had it in my mind that this is what I wanted to do, and I started small and then I worked my way up. It was difficult because I wasn't used to it, but I constantly was working that muscle and I was getting used to it. So again, it takes time. It's a process when you're setting any kind of goal. But again, thank you guys for watching this. I will have another live stream tomorrow talking a little bit about motivation and things of that nature. It's going to be a little bit separate from this presentation based live stream, because I sort of want to be a little bit one-on-one with you guys. But I really hope you guys got a lot of information with this, and I look forward to sharing some more information with you guys tomorrow and of course the coming week. So thank you guys for watching.